Hi, this is J.D. Ingram of the Charleston Pipe Band, and I want to welcome you to my series on how to be a great piper in 3 steps. As a refresher, here is the tree diagram for our 3 easy steps. Stay tuned as we dive into today's topic. Step 2, have a good sounding instrument, because let's face it, not all bagpipes sound alike. The first part of step 2, have a good sounding instrument, is maintenance. Because let's face it, even the best bagpiper in the world couldn't play a leaky, poorly set up bagpipe. The 3 things to focus on with maintenance are having an airtight bag, tight hemp, and calibrated reeds. We'll discuss the details soon.
Maintenance is absolutely key. And I mean, even more than maintenance is just having a good setup in general. You can buy cheap knockoff stuff that doesn't work very well, breaks quickly. You're gonna be just struggling. Get yourself a decent setup, invest in a good blowpipe with a good flapper valve, invest in a bag, take care of the zipper if you've got a zipper bag, season your bag if you've got a hide bag, take care of your stuff, rehemp your stuff periodically. Absolutely key. Funny story, not funny, haha. Funny story, but not funny, haha. Earlier this past year, like 6 months ago, as I record this, the band, we had a maintenance day. I said, all right, what we're gonna do, we're all gonna just go through the step list. Everybody take everything out, cork up your bag, blow them up. Immediately, there were like 3 people who'd been complaining about how hard the reeds were that I was giving them. Their bag collapsed immediately because they had holes in them. Well, there you go. You can't blow a decent reed if you can't keep your bag inflated if it's empty. It's not the fault of the reed. It's the fault of you not taking care of your bag. Test it periodically, at least once a year, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. It's just common sense, because you're not going to have any fun playing if you've got a leaky bag. Then test your stocks. So you can put your the bottom section of your drones and cork those off and see if there's air, cracks, poor hemp job, whatever. Should be nice and airtight no matter what. And if you're speaking of hemp, at the stocks, it should take 2 hands to move. If you can pull your drone out of the bag with one hand, it's not tight enough. Zippers and flappers, absolutely important. And knowing how to adjust them is really key. I know there's some fancy ones out there. There's like the moose valve and the flux capacitor blowpipe, whatever that one's called. That they've got different flapper valves. The Airstream, I use an Airstream, and there's different options out there. They all adjust a little differently, and sometimes putting them in too tight or sideways or up backwards is possible and can lead to disastrous results. So look at the website, read the directions, make sure it's set up right. Once you've got your drones fully on, the slides should be one hand to move. If you cannot tune your drones with one hand, then you're gonna, every time you need to make an adjustment, you're gonna set it back down. But that being said, they should still be tight enough that you can hold them and put your pipes on your shoulder and back down and move them around, and they're not out of tune because they've slipped. So there's a fine line to adjust there. Typically with the bass drone top slide, second slide, I keep that as tight as I keep the stock. It should be, because I don't use it to tune. I get it set and leave it there. So keep it tight, airtight. And then reeds. A lot of people forget that reeds are hemmed into place. Your reeds should be able to support the pipe that they are attached to. If you cannot pick up your chanter by the chanter reed, it is in there too loose. You've got air escaping around the side of the reed, and that is detrimental to your tone and your effort. So there's a whole video series that I did that, and one of the videos touches on exactly this. And then last but not least, adjusting the reeds themselves. So getting your chanter reeds set up any way that you like. There's lots of tips out there. I might try to link to one in the description or something like that. Piper's Dojo has a great one. The bagpipelessons.com from Jory Chisholm has a great one. Check those out. I'm not going to expound and link anything. I don't have any information that cannot be found freely on the web from one of those two great sources. And same thing for your drone reeds. There's different ways to adjust the different reeds. If you've got cane, if you've got synthetic, if you're playing easy drones, or if you're playing canards, or if you're playing one of those ones with the funny little Allen wrench stuff. Just figure out how to adjust it, get it adjusted so that it all works the same. Your drones, you should be able to blow them off. If you squeeze really hard as you possibly can, and they're still going, that's wasted effort. You should be able to just barely be able to blow off your drones. They should not be able to be blown off while you're in the normal everyday playing of your chanter. So if you're playing your chanter and your drone's cut off, they're set up too easy. If you can't blow them off at all, they're set up too hard. Somewhere in there is the sweet spot. Set them up so that they're not taking too much air, but they're taking enough that you can play the chanter comfortably. And of course, getting yourself used to playing whatever the hardness is for your chanter reeds so that you are constantly in the sweet spot of the chanter hardness, but we will talk more on that in a second.
Part 2 of step 2, have good instrument sound, is good blowing. So with our blowing, we're going to divide this into 3 separate topics: physical blowing, mental blowing, and blowing in the sweet spot. No matter what you do to your bagpipes and how you move your fingers, unsteady blowing is going to cause an unsteady and unpleasing sound to come out of your instrument.
Second part of having a good sounding instrument is blowing. So you can have a great set of bagpipes and have them tuned expertly. Whoever, one of the world champion guys could come and give you or me their bagpipes and tune them themselves. And since I'm not going to blow at the exact same pressure they are, and I'm probably not as good of or as steady of a blower as they are, it's not going to sound quite as good. So it doesn't matter how much tuning you put into it. Anybody who's been assigned to tune drones in a band probably has walked around and seen people who the needle looks like this, and they've seen people who the needle looks like this. There's no way you're going to get this to always point up, right? If it's like this and it's steady, you can adjust it and make it point up. But if it's going back and forth, if your pressure's up and down, there's no way you're going to always be in tune. So, blowing, absolutely key. The tricks to blowing, I find I have a lot more control with a bag that is seated higher up in my armpit. And so that's when you strike in way up here, a lot more control. And if you've ever taken like a self-defense course or something like that, and you practice like choking people out, that's something that if you get somebody's like right there and just like flex your bicep, you can knock them out right away because you've got that much control and strength with the leverage up here. The second tip is always be squeezing. So a lot of people think, oh yeah, first you blow, then you squeeze, and then you blow, and that time between blowing and squeezing is where you're getting those dips. If you are always squeezing, and as you blow, you're just allowing yourself to relax a little bit, and then I'm squeezing, and then I'm blowing, and allowing myself to relax just a little bit, but still squeezing, those dips are going to be a lot less noticeable and eventually might go away. Third, practice it. I went to a symposium with the Piper's Dojo for pipe majors. Rad Matheson and Stuart Little and Alan Bevan were there. And I believe it was Stuart that said he puts on his favorite TV show. I think it was like Friends or something like that. Sorry, Stuart, if you watch this and it's not Friends and you're really embarrassed by that. But you see, he puts on his favorite TV show, mutes it, turns on the subtitles, and then sits there and blows a low A and practices keeping that low A in tune for the entire TV show. It's like 25 minutes, which makes sense because a lot of P-Rocks can get up to like 20 to 22 minutes. So if you're comfortable blowing through the entirety of How I Met Your Mother or whatever, then you're going to be comfortable blowing through the entirety of a medley or an MSR. And just practicing those long tones. And if you don't have the ear to know that your low A is in tune, set up a tuning meter in front of you and keep the needle steady. And just get that physicality where you can physically keep the bag blown up at the right pressure the whole time. Second, focus. The mental aspects of blowing are key. So many people will go, right? You take a breath at the torloa and the grip because you're not as comfortable with them. Then you get on the bagpipes and you can't take a breath there. And you go, and your chanter cuts out or your drones dip, even if the chanter doesn't cut out. Excuse me. And you've trained yourself to not blow steady because of the hard parts of the tune. Don't do that. Practice blowing through the mental tough spots and walk around and practice getting your drones and stuff adjusted and listen to those spots where you can hear the chanter and the drones coming in and out of tune with each other. The last thing you're going to have to do is practicing with a meter. Typically, a tuning meter is not going to be as useful for this. A pressure meter is going to be necessary because it can pick up on the pressure and not the adjusting. Hopefully, if you're playing a tune, the tone or the pitch of the pipe is changing from note to note. So, practicing with a water manometer or a pressure gauge. There's ones that you can plug into your blow stick. There's ones that you can plug into your drones. But practice playing the tune and watching it. And if you can hold that pressure exactly steady or as steady as possible, you're doing good. Then do it again where you're not watching it and have like a friend watch it for you or film it and see if as soon as you don't have that external reference point, if those habits have come back in and work to overcome that. The third aspect of blowing well is blowing at the correct pressure, the sweet spot. So a lot of people will blow as the lowest pressure they can get to, right at the end. I went from low and you got that gurgle and then I got my chanter in, right? A lot of people play it right there. And as soon as they let off a little bit or get distracted or anything, they're instantly having their chanter choke. That's bad. Not only because it's distracting the music, but you're just barely getting your chanter in tone and in pitch and everything. It's just not going to sound as rich. On the flip side, some people are playing right up at the very edge. I find playing somewhere between the halfway point between the minimum pressure and the maximum pressure, and the maximum pressure is about the right spot for me. So like 2/3, 3/4 of the way up that pressure gradient of acceptable pressures. Because at least for me, there's always going to be just a little bit of variation, and I don't want to be squeaking accidentally because I'm right at the limit and sometimes overblow, and I don't want to be choking where I'm right at the bottom limit and sometimes underblowing. I want to be as high as I can get where I'm safely away from the top, because the higher pressures are going to give you a slightly richer chanter sound. So find your choke point, find your sweet point. Sweet spot is 3/4 of the way from the bottom to the top. Blow there, your pipes will sound great. Blow steady, and practice.
The last part of step 2, have a good instrument sound, is part 3, tuning. You can only worry about tuning after you have a well-maintained instrument that you're blowing steady. When you get to this step for tuning, make sure you have a balanced chanter, balanced drones, and good balance and tuning between your drones and your chanter. We'll talk about some tips to do that now.
Last tip for having a good sounding bagpipe is tune your bagpipe. So many people get to the point where they're kind of got a decent setup and they're kind of decent at blowing, and then they'll tune their bagpipes once and it sounds fairly decent, and then they go and play for like an hour, and by the end it just sounds like garbage. Tuning is going to be something you've got to do. It's a cycle. It's you get your pipes warmed up, you tune, you play a couple sets, you listen, you make some adjustments, you play a couple sets, you listen, you make some adjustments, over and over and over again until you're done playing. Of course, you want to have your chanter in tune. The key things to having a good sounding chanter is the octave jump. So octave being low G to high G and low A to high A. That should, if you don't have the meter handy, sing the beginning of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Somewhere, right? That's the octave registry. If it doesn't sound like that, right? Then if it sounds like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, adjust. Then you can typically, once you've got those set, listen to your arpeggios. If you've been practicing arpeggios from part 1 of this series, that should sound fairly obvious. Those regular intervals should be ones that are kind of drilled into your head. If it sounds way out, make some adjustments. And then once you've developed the ear for the different pitches against your drones, you can use finding the graduated tuning. Talk about that more in a second. Or the let-off method. Graduated tuning. So the graduated tuning is the idea that if I move my chanter reed, the difference between the reed, the sound source in the high A, and the sound source in the low A are significantly different. So if I move it, let's say 0.1 inches up here, that's like 10% of the distance from here to here. But it's only 1% of the distance from the reed to the low A. So I've adjusted my high A 10%, and I've adjusted my low A 1%. So the basics are the high hand moves faster than the low hand. If you find that your high hand's flat, you can push your reed in. It will bring your high hand will move faster than the low hand, so you'll eventually have it, the whole setup will be sharper, slightly, but it'll also be in balance from the high A to the low A. So getting your chanter balanced. Second, getting your drones balanced. So once you've got your drones set up, you can make some adjustments. So this is back to maintenance and calibrating your reeds so that they are in tune with your chanter, one, and also that they're in tune where they are tuning right at the top of the tuning pin. You should be able to see basically all of the metal or wood or whatever it is, the material that your slides are made out of, and none to maybe just a very little bit of the hemp. If you've got a whole lot of hemp showing, you're kind of getting dangerous with the drone falling off. If you can't see any of the hemp, or you don't see all of the metal, then you're not getting the full resonance of the wood and the pipe. So adjusting the drones so that they're kind of all cut off at the same time, they're all going to sound at the same volume, and they're all tuning right at the sweet spot. And the exception to that is the lower slide of the bass drone. Usually I shoot for about half of the slide there, about 2 fingers worth. So rule of thumb. And then last but not least is making sure that your drones and chanter are balanced against each other. So this is where the let-off method comes from. If I listen to my drone and a low A and it doesn't sound quite right, but I'm not sure whether I should go sharper or flatter, let off of the pressure a little bit. If it sounds better, what happened was the chanter will adjust with pressure faster than the drums will. So if it sounds better, my chanter dropped down to my drum. If you are chasing a specific frequency, like say you're playing with an orchestra and you've set your drones to be concert pitch A440 or whatever, then what you'd want to do is flatten your chanter down to that pitch. If you are happy with your chanter and you want your drones to be in tune, then you would sharpen your drones up to where your chanter was. On the flip side, if it sounded worse and you try to blow harder, squeeze a little harder, and it sounds better, then what had happened was your chanter was blown up. So you could either sharpen your chanter or flatten your drones until they are in balance with each other. You can repeat that with every single note. So if you get good at hearing the low A versus your drones, try the C versus your drones or the E versus your drones. Those are a major third, major fifth. They're nice harmonic chords that you should eventually, with a little bit of practice, be able to hear the resonance there. And if the C or E are out of tone, if you got your low A in tune and the C doesn't sound good, do the exact same trick and you can learn to tape the C down. Of course, by taping, those are the holes that are open while I'm playing a C. If I put some tape over the top of that hole, I have moved the effective center of that hole down and flattened the note. If I have tape there and remove the tape, I can raise it. If I don't have tape and I need to raise it, the only option would be to drill the chanter out, which is something that some people do, but I would not recommend. So, again, with the let-off method, if I'm listening and I've got the C and I let off and it sounds better, then I need to flatten that C. I add the tape and bring it down to the target frequency. Same with the E. The next ones I would say would probably be D and F, because those are a third down and a fifth down from your high A, or a fourth and a sixth. A little harder to pick, but still possible. The last ones you're gonna find are probably your G's and B's, because those are only one note off of your A, and it's really hard to hear that out, but it's possible, I guess. Anyways, that's the trick for getting your chanter in tune if you don't have a meter to do it for you. So get things in tune, chanter in tune, you got your nice octave bass, octave jump from bottom to top, drones are in tune with the chanter, got all the double fine tune the process, and then once you've played a little bit, do it again, and do it again every 20 to 40 minutes until you're done playing. All right, enough of me. Have a good day, guys.
As a refresher, here is the 3 easy steps tree diagram. Today we talked about step 2, having a good sounding instrument. The 3 parts of that are having a well-maintained instrument, blowing it steady, and tuning. Thanks for joining again, guys. Take care.